What's going on, gentlemen? Welcome back to Grit on the Rocks podcast, the show where we mix straight talk, strong whiskey, and help men, and sometimes women, live with more purpose, power, and presence. So before we jump in, do me a favor. Hit that like button or drop us a review. Subscribe to us on whatever platform you consume this content, be on YouTube or Rumble or Apple Podcasts or Spotify or iHeartRadio. Make sure to turn on all those notifications and share this episode with someone who needs it.
This podcast is a Buenos Dias Media production.
This is the Grit on the Rocks podcast, where raw conversations meet smooth sips. Pull up a chair, pour your favorite drink, puff on your favorite cigar, and join us as we dive into the convos that matter. No scripts, no barriers, just unfiltered truth served straight up. Cheers to the real ones out there. Salud.
All right. Let's get into something that might seem a little controversial. Something I stumbled across while scrolling online. Not necessarily my opinion, but definitely something worth discussing. There's a saying and a mindset out there, right? It's sort of like a slogan that says, happy wife, happy life. Or as the text I found puts it, it's one of the biggest lies men ever sold. Now, before anybody starts throwing stones, relax and breathe. We're going to break down like grown adults here, right? We're going to break this down because whether you agree or disagree, this phrase affects marriages, relationships, and how men and women communicate in this day and age. So let's get into it.
The views and opinions expressed by the host, guest, and/or participants of this show do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Buenos Dias Media LLC, its associates, partners, and show sponsors. The content is intended for entertainment purposes and should not be construed as professional advice. Listener discretion is advised.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are discussing today the lie that silences men and women too. As I said before, this was a post I came across. I read it, I analyzed it, and thought, maybe this is something worth discussing on Grit on the Rocks. Let me tell you what this online post was basically saying. In my words, of course, because I'm paraphrasing, a lot of men grew up believing that keeping the woman happy is the key to peace. But the problem is, when one person's entire happiness becomes the other person's job, the relationship becomes lopsided. And honestly, this applies to men and women. Yeah, I mean, the original text focused on husbands. It was speaking straight to men, making it seem like women are the bad guy, right? But the same imbalance breaks women too. So let's break it down, Grit on the Rocks way. You see, when you think someone else's happiness is your responsibility, you shrink. Plain and simple. This article basically said that men raised on quote-unquote happy wife, happy life start playing defense their whole lives. They stop speaking up, they avoid conflict, and eventually they disappear inside the relationship. To be honest, this is something I agree with. But we can't look at this only one-sided. This does not only happen to men, it also happens to women. A lot of women shrink around emotionally unstable men too. Whether you're a man or a woman, when you shrink to keep your spouse or your partner, your life partner, or whatever you want to call it, when you shrink to keep them happy and live walking on eggshells and you live people-pleasing, truth is you begin losing yourself. And this isn't a gender issue. It's a boundaries issue. And whenever one person becomes the emotional caretaker, the relationship stops being a partnership and it starts becoming sort of like a job. Right? When a relationship becomes one-sided, respect disappears. And again, whether you agree or not, here's the real truth. No human respects someone they can walk all over. Some might want to claim to be the victim, all while in reality being the aggressor. And like I said, this goes for both men and women. See, in my opinion, gender roles here don't matter. A controlling husband loses respect for the woman he manipulates. A controlling wife loses respect for the man who obeys. And a controlling partner loses respect for anyone who fears their reaction. Relationships need something magical called balance, structure, boundaries. It's not, one superstar and one emotional punching bag. In some cases, be it man or women, they begin to go silent in the relationship in the attempt to, quote unquote, keep the peace. But silence is not real peace. It becomes sort of an emotional eviction, right? Let's put it that way. The post said that men are trained to stay quiet for the sake of peace. But let me tell you something. If someone has to go silent for the relationship to function, that relationship is already broken. Because the silence eventually becomes resentment. That resentment becomes distance. And that distance becomes disconnection. And eventually, you end up being two strangers sharing a Wi-Fi password and a mortgage. I believe that these are conditions created by the so-called system we live in. The system we live in today loves weak, compliant people. The original text claimed the slogan "Happy Wife, Happy Life" was created to weaken men. But is that true? Maybe, maybe not. But here's what I think. A quiet partner is easy to manipulate. A silent partner is easy to guilt. And a passive partner is easy to control. And again, can't stress this enough. This goes both ways. I mean, the text was made for men, but I'm speaking for both. If society or culture convinces either gender that they must prioritize the other person's happiness at the expense of their own identity, you've removed their power. A relationship thrives when both voices matter. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to feed the ego or entitlement of those who only live for their happiness and their happiness only. Because I do think we all need to do things to make our spouses or life partners happy. But only if it goes both ways. And only reciprocation should keep that healthy cycle going. Because the moment it becomes one way only, right? Or a one way only action, there's a problem and it needs to be addressed immediately. So let's take a quick break and we'll keep breaking down the lie that silences men and women, the whole quote unquote happy wife, happy life slogan. You are listening to Grit on the Rocks podcast, a Buenos Dias media production.
Looking to connect with like-minded men who share your drive for success and passion for the finer things in life? Welcome to the Apex Gentlemen's Guild, a private members club for men who value ambition, camaraderie, giving back, and personal growth. For a limited time while we're fully remote, you can join the guild for free. Gain access to tons of motivational content, exclusive events, insightful discussions, and a network of high-performance individuals. Don't miss this chance to elevate your social circle. Request to join today at facebook.com/groups/Apex Gentlemen's Guild or give us a like at facebook.com/Apex Gentlemen's Guild. The Apex Gentlemen's Guild, excellence forged in unity.
Fellas, if cigars are more than just smoke to you, if they're part of your lifestyle, your conversations, your identity, then you need to be tuned in to the Cigar Cypher podcast. Every week, we break down the world of premium cigars and the business with style, culture, and real conversation. No fluff, no pretension, just a conversation on everything that burns slow and speaks loud. From learning how to spot fake Cubans, to mastering cigar lounge etiquette, to understanding the power of networking over smoke. The Cigar Cypher gives you the knowledge, the laughs, and the insight every cigar lover deserves. We highlight premium cigars, talk industry news, decode cigar culture, and sit down for the kind of discussions you only get in a leather chair with good company. So, if you're ready to elevate your cigar game, deepen your knowledge, and become part of a community built on craftsmanship and conversation, light up, lean back, and join us. Search the Cigar Cypher podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, YouTube, and Rumble. The Cigar Cypher podcast. This is where smoke meets conversation.
This is the Modern V podcast, where voice, vulnerability, and victory meet. I'm Leilani.
And I'm Michelle. We're two friends having the real conversations women actually need about healing, hustle, motherhood, love, money, and the patterns we know too well.
No pretending here. Just honest stories, expert gems, and practical tools so you can feel seen and move forward.
If you ever felt silenced, judged, or just tired of carrying it all, you're home. Pull up a chair.
New episodes are short enough for your commute, deep enough to change your week.
Hit follow on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. Share this with your sisters, your group chat. Your future self will thank you.
The Modern V.
The Modern V.
Voice, vulnerability,
victory.
victory.
Gentlemen, this one's for you. Whether you're signing deals, chasing dreams, or just unwinding after a long day, your cigar should match your grind. At thegentleman'storch.com, we bring you premium cigars, boutique blends, and curated sample packs, all without the premium price. Because class isn't about the label, it's about the standard you set. From CEOs to 9-to-5ers, every man deserves that moment, that taste of excellence. So light up, level up, and let your story burn slow. Visit thegentleman'storch.com, where affordability meets class and every smoke means something. The Gentleman's Torch. Light up, level up.
Hi, this is Kevin B. Ploth. You're listening to Grit on the Rocks podcast.
All right, and we are back. You're listening to Grit on the Rocks podcast. And we've been discussing the supposed lie that silences men and women. The whole quote-unquote happy wife, happy life slogan. But we're looking at it through the lens of both sides, men and women. Now let's take a look at one of the killers of love. And what is that, you may ask? Entitlement. Entitlement kills love more than arguments ever will. When one person is expected to carry the emotional load, their efforts become sort of invisible. The sacrifice becomes expected. Their needs become inconvenient. And their exhaustion becomes complaining. This is how resentment becomes a third roommate in your marriage. True partnership is 50-50, not 100 on one side and 0 on the other. So now I'm going to serve you a straight shot of truth. Here's the Grit on the Rocks version of reality. And I'm talking to everyone here, men and women. You're not responsible for someone else's happiness. And I've said this before in other episodes. You can be part of it, just like they should be part of yours, but it is not your ultimate responsibility. You are responsible for your behavior. They are responsible for their reactions. And together, you build a home based on respect, communication, and boundaries. You are not a hostage. You are not a servant. You are not an emotional punching bag. And I'm speaking to both here. Healthy marriages exist. Healthy women exist. Healthy men exist. The problem is when one person sacrifices themselves in the name of, quote unquote, keeping the peace. If you have to lose yourself to save, right? I'm doing the air quotes here, the relationship, then my friends, you already lost. So for my final message here, gentlemen, ladies, partners, whoever is listening, love is not about emotional slavery. Peace is not about silence. A relationship is not a dictatorship where one person's comfort is the only priority. A strong home is built when both people speak, both people listen, both people compromise, and both people grow. And both people take responsibility and accountability. Reject the slogans. Reject the guilt. Reject the emotional blackmail. A healthy relationship doesn't require your silence. It requires your presence. So if you enjoyed this episode, give me that like, subscribe, share it, drop a comment. Go to gritontheRocks.com, scroll down to the bottom to the Contact Us section and send us your stories. Send us your suggestions. If you have a story you want to send, if you want to be, anonymous, just, state it that you want to remain anonymous, but share your stories. Maybe you might have had, might have lived through this. Maybe you were in a relationship where you were the quote unquote victim, right? The one trying to keep the other person happy. Or maybe you're honest enough to say, I was the person who was controlling. I was the person who played the victim, but I wasn't. So until next time, keep your spirits high, your cigars lit, your glasses full, and your conversations meaningful. This is David, and this is Grit on the Rocks podcast, a Buenos Dias media production. Until next time.